Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised. Hey everybody, welcome back to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name's James McCarthy.
I'm Jody Kite.
And welcome back to another rest stop where we took material that was too long for one episode, but we thought we still want to present to you because we think we had some good ideas as far as that goes in there. And what is it about, Jody?
Leave it to me to start a Magic the Gathering rant on the show.
Yeah, and you had two very interested parties there. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the fourth one wasn't so. Yeah.
He zoned out, which is understandable.
Yeah, no, it's quite right.
I get it.
And you'll find out Brady's reasons for that here upcoming. But yes, we're going to be talking a little bit about the state of Magic, not necessarily from the game side of things, but from the business side of things. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the reasons why it's kind of permanently scared me away from ever getting with the product ever again. It's a sad thing to say about it, but because one of the little things I was going to bring up after this portion was just I would love to play Magic again. Mm-hmm. I would, but I think the business practices going on right now are just kind of zoning me out of it. May not for everybody, but definitely for me.
I mean, Wizards of the Coast, if they keep up with the D&D side of things as it's looking, it's not going to be good for that side either.
But that's a story.
That's
for
a whole different topic.
This time, let's get into the boys talking about Magic the Gathering. Do you just think that Magic and Wizards of the Coast is just trying to make Magic decks as expensive as fucking Games Workshop armies?
They're making the hobby as expensive as the other hobby, if that's what you're fucking saying.
It just like $500 for a booster box.
And then like they normally don't do this. They normally like wait until like the last quarter of the year to at least introduce the names of the part of the next year's quarters and the next two quarters or whatever. They released the names and the sets that were coming out next year this week.
That's crazy.
There's like 8 or 9 things coming out next year. There's the Doctor Who Universe Beyond set
that's coming out this year.
Never mind. That's this year.
Yeah,
what's next? What's next year, Ethan? Look it up real quick.
I took like a screenshot.
Look it up real quick. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid.
You are mad.
Go at the beginning of it.
The beginning of next year is
quarter one.
Yeah, the Ravnica remastered.
Okay, so they're going back to Ravnica for the 4th time.
Okay,
it's not even that they're introducing a new.
They were in Dominaria for like 5 years.
Well, like, that was in the beginning.
I don't necessarily mind that.
Yeah.
Where I would think, like, the notion of Ravnica remastered,
right?
All that suggests to me is that they're reprinting old cards with new art.
Maybe.
That's what my brain. That's what connects in my brain.
Slow down for 1 second, Ethan. I know you want to get to the next set, but I got to explain something to Jay. So Ravnica came out in like 2000 and.
Didn't it come right after Kamigawa?
It was right after Kamigawa, I believe.
Kamigawa came out in like 2003.
So it's like
ish. So Ravnica.
Oh no!
Look it up.
Kamigawa was like 2005. I would almost.
Kamigawa was not 2005. That's like Time Spiral block or
maybe
whatever.
2004, because I was still in law school.
I think Kamigawa was 2002. I'm pretty sure 2003.
Oh, no, it's not 2002.
We're about to find out.
2005.
Okay, I was wrong. My bad.
Okay.
All right. So, what was before Kamigawa?
Mirrodin. Mirrodin
was before Kamigawa.
No.
Ravnica. What year did Ravnica come out originally in? Look it up.
2005.
2000. I'm talking. Oh, no. Kamigawa. Look up what year Kamigawa.
Came. Kamigawa. I thought you said Ravnica.
Well, we said both of them at the same time, but I was establishing a starting point. Kamigawa came out in when?
2004.
A year before that.
Yes.
Okay. Before Ravnica. Yeah. Right. So Mirrodin, Kamigawa, then Ravnica. Ravnica came out in 2005. Mm-hmm. Right. What year did Return to Ravnica come out?
That was back. I think that was when the shop just moved over from.
No, that was. I think
Return to Ravnica 2012.
2012.
Okay.
All right, and the return to Ravnica.
I want to say that's Guilds of Ravnica.
Yeah. Whatever.
2018.
Okay. So we've already had 3 Ravnica sets since 2005, and we're going back again. We've already been to Zendikar like 3 or 4
18 years. Like I from an outsider looking in, I don't necessarily mind that as much.
It's not that they're going back to the sets multiple times. It's that they're going back to the same handful of sets multiple times.
Then they went to Ravnica Allegiance in 2019. And then in the same year, War of the Spark.
Yeah, right. That was took place in Ravnica. Yeah. They go back to the same handful of planes. Anyway, what are the next set? What's the next set after Ravnica? After the return of Ravnica?
It's Murders of Karlov Manor,
which
is
seems
set on Dominaria.
Dominaria, which seems really cool. It's very like Agatha Christie. They're trying like the streets of New Capenna with like mystery stuff. So it seems pretty nice.
Then
that's new.
Yeah. And then there's another like Universes Beyond set, which takes place in Fallout.
Yeah, so we're getting Universes Beyond Fallout, which the Universes Beyond is only it's a modern and legacy formats.
I have not minded from again. This is an outsider looking in again. I have not minded the themes for a lot of these sets. Like again, like for me, for outside, like 4 or 5 times going to Ravnica. Again, when I played, it was only Dominaria. So the fact that that settings, and I can appreciate from a money side of wanting to utilize the more popular areas where Ravnica, I know, is a big one. Going back to Dominaria for old timers.
Dominaria is fine too.
Mirrodin, they had like what, Scars of Mirrodin?
They had Scars of Mirrodin, and then we went back. Well, no,
it was Mirrodin, Scars of Mirrodin,
New Phyrexia. Well, that was the same block.
Okay.
Yeah, right, New Phyrexia.
So you had things like that. My problem is not with these themes. My problem is with there is so much product that they are literally firing at you. I thought like a base set and a 3-tier expansion for a set like the old Onslaught block, like the old Urza Saga stuff.
One
like
block
that.
a year.
That was at the point where it's like, okay, this is okay.
Like once every 4 months, you had a new thing.
Now it's like almost every 2 months. Here's a new thing.
It's not even every 2 months anymore.
Yeah.
It's not even every 2 months anymore. And at the price point we've been talking about, Fallout, I have issues with them doing fantasy based outside of Magic. No problem. Warhammer, it's fantasy. It's high fantasy, whatever.
Well, it's sci-fi. Like it's hard sci-fi.
But also Magic has sci-fi in Ravnica as well with the Is It Guild and things like that.
Well, then you had stuff like New Capenna, which looked very not steampunk. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, it's very it's
and then you had the Aura Punk one that I cannot remember the name of.
That's
like the one with this like the gem like looking airships and shit.
That's
were first introduced.
My brain shut off.
Like y'all
Kaladesh.
Kaladesh. Like I'm cool with that. Like I said, I'm cool with the theming.
Fallout, I don't know, but
please stop pushing this so.
What's after
fast.
Fallout?
Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is cowboys.
I'm okay with it.
I'm totally okay. Yeah. These themes are great.
What's next?
Then the 3rd iteration of Modern Horizons. So there's going to be another modern set.
Is that it for the year?
No.
We're not done.
Hasn't there been a modern every year for like the last...
No.
No.
They typically... Modern Horizons is like every 3 to 4 years. Because
but there's also these things like Modern Masters.
Well, they do. It's not modern though, but they'll do Ultimate Masters, Commander Masters. There's some special set like that every year.
So you have a Master set
of some kind.
And then you have a modern thing that happens every.
Yeah, they alternate all of those.
Okay.
What's after that?
Then it is another Universes Beyond with Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed, care less. All right, moving on.
A new setting called Bloomborough. Which is kind of like a. From what it looks like a fantasy plane. Like
it sounds like Lorwyn or Shadowmoor.
The main image showing is like a mouse with a dagger for like fighting off a huge wolf.
Yeah, what else? What else we got?
And
Ethan?
then the last one for next year is going to be Duskmourn House of Horror. Which I don't even know where that would take place.
This year's not over. We still have the new Eldraine set coming out this year.
Eldraine set. We have Doctor Who. And
maybe one more thing. There's so much shit, and when you're spending 500,
Ixalan.
We're going back to Ixalan. When you're spending like $500 for a box of non-foil, non-premium cards, and the funny thing is, not funny, but the collectors packs, which you get 4 of now instead of 12, You get 4. There's a couple more cards in them. Whoop-de-fucking-do. That was like
was cheaper than
it's $100 cheaper than
$200.
It's $200 cheaper than set boosters.
If the name didn't have the value that it had, or if the name starts losing value, like, and forgive this fucking pun.
Right.
This is a house of fucking cards.
Right.
Like, it literally is.
Right.
If the Magic brand ever lost that fucking name brandness of it, these things would be pennies.
Oh yeah,
like millions to pennies.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think you would have like the Power 9. I think for historical situation would be. I think there might be because of the crossover between Magic and Lord of the Rings fans, which I'm sure is a Venn diagram that has more in the middle than people would want.
Right. Of course there is. Of course there is.
I think that one ring card will always kind of have that kind of status there. But for someone like me, let's say for instance, I would like to go back into playing a card game.
Sure.
And Magic is out there.
Sure.
I can't stand the Commander format. I fucking hate the Commander format.
Okay.
I think 100 cards and you can only pick one of all of these. The other things, if you've just been in the game longer, you can get your stuff together. I think it's preposterous.
Sure.
I would play in the classic, 60 cards, 4 copies of anything that ain't a basic land, which you're restricted in ban list. However, going there. The way that sounds to me is like, I would have my deck built. I'd play it in one tournament, and then I've got to get ready to fucking either rework or completely trash it within months and do it again. And you're talking like $300, $400, $500 on maybe a conservative side.
Let me tell you how insane it actually is.
Okay.
The most competitive decks in Modern right now run between $400 to $800. Now, Modern is an eternal format. And unless a card gets banned out of your deck that makes your deck useless, which doesn't happen as often as you would think, you put that investment in there, you don't have to play another deck unless you want to. So it's the only people that are suffering that I say that
there is no format that has a faster cycle out time.
Standard
is where I would want to play.
But they're extending standards. Yeah. They're extending.
You have Cameron right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Or Spain.
They're yeah. I did actually say Spaniards.
Yeah.
They're extending the
rotation time.
The rotation time for Standard. It used to be a year and 8 months, and now it's going to be closer to 3 years because Standard, above all other formats, no matter how expensive they are, with the rotation, price out people. Because I've said this before, if I'm a tournament player and I have to play it at an expensive GP or an Open, a GP being a Grand Prix, and I have to spend like $50, and I'm trying to win like $8,000 or whatever, I have to keep all those cards until rotation, even if rotation is the next week and I lose all the money that I've invested in those cards. That's the problem with rotation, and that's another reason why people don't hardly play Standard in Magic anymore.
Or like the same scenario, you have your deck ready for a big tournament the next day, and they announce a ban. That
has happened, but it's not.
That's happened to me.
It's not as common as as it used to be.
Dark Steel. I've got my little zombie deck. Oh, Skull Clamp. Oh yeah, we're restricting that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me cobble together my old Broodstar deck and fucking make that kind of work. Holy shit. Yeah. I have to imagine that this not a major reason. I think the IP of it is probably what's driving this. But I think this is a major reason why Lorcana is getting a whole bunch of focus to it, because it's a newer game that they haven't vandalized yet for collector value.
Well, the insane thing, and this is going to be where I leave the Magic talk for now. The insane thing is that the reason why all these products are kind of working for Wizards is that when you create false scarcity through high pricing, like the way they're doing it, that's actually driving the price of the singles on the secondary market, because there's not as many people that are buying the product, or there is, but those people are kind of hoarding the product or whatever, which is also increasing the price of singles on the secondary market, which drives the price of the sealed market, and it kind of snowballs in that effect.
That was part of the reason why Star Wars Destiny, in my opinion, both of those ideas that we've talked about here kind of made it fall apart, because when the initial set came out, it was pretty much bought up by Star Wars, super collectors.
Right.
And you had some because Star Wars Destiny, real quick, was a collectible card game that also had a dice function to it. And some of those cards were going for like $60-$80
right
out the gate because Darth Vader's picture was on it.
Right.
And it was an okay card, but it didn't really, like, as far as competitiveness goes, but because it had Darth Vader's name on it, and they Fantasy Flight Games woefully underdetermined how much they should have printed in that first run. And those cards were just
That's what I'm worried about with Lorcana, to be honest with you.
The other part about that was the fact that they were literally putting out new sets as soon as the recent set released. The day after, here's the new set. Here's what you get to. I'm like, I can't keep this up.
Right.
I can't do it.
Right.
And so those two things together killed that. Lorcana, I don't know. People are willing to get into fights on the floor of Gen Con in order to be able to play it.
That's because
that happened.
Right, because they probably only had so much product that they could like, get rid of, and there was like the demand is like through the fucking roof.
I thought Brady was like starting to arch up and was like, "Oh my god!"
I think he's about to pass out.
No, I thought I was feeling the end of this conversation where I could actually have some say in it. But
no, go for it. Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to say. I was just something that I can participate in because I don't know anything and don't care about Magic.
Okay,
but you were interested in Lorcana.
I mean, I am, but I don't even know at this point if I'm going to be able to fucking play the thing when it comes out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I would imagine that depending on what does or doesn't happen in McNarbs, there are other game stores we have in
they might not have any either, man.
It's all about the demand is what I'm worried about.
The demand is real high. Yeah. Like you mentioned about the Star Wars card game, there are Disney collectors that are going to buy the shit out of this because they want Disney cards.
Yeah.
And not because they care about
at the
playing
very least
the
with
game.
Lorcana, it's not going to be like, and because I don't have any stake in Magic, like I don't really care about like the things where like the 40K and the Lord of the Rings stuff coming into it. I don't give a shit about that.
I don't either because
like it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I know it bothers a lot of people, and I can see how it is kind of watering down the product a little bit.
Well, it's like if Doctor Who showed up in Warhammer kind of
thing. You're doing too much.
Yeah, it's a little silly, but
because to me it's and I can see that with some other things,
right?
Because it is kind of it's not based on an IP, but it is like based on like there is like a lore and stuff to it.
You mentioned Doctor Who showing up in Warhammer. Doctor Who did show up in EVE Online, which that's a crossover that makes no fucking sense to me.
Video games also though like have that like loose, depending on what kind of shit they've been doing already.
With EVE, that's to me it's very strange because EVE has usually been very, I want to say protective, but it's usually been the community itself dictates where it goes rather than the company. And just a Doctor Who EVE Online crossover just like is silly to me.
My only issue isn't like any of the crossover stuff compared to the fucking pricing of the product itself.
Yeah.
And
if you're putting out stuff like every couple of months, you have to buy a new set.
They could always, like there was a guy, like one of the head guys at Magic or whatever, one of the VPs or whatever, and basically just came out and said like, well, if you don't want it, you don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
And just being super douchey about like everything. It's like, okay, well
that's like the Blizzard statement. You guys don't have phones about Diablo Immortal.
Oh yeah.
The ultimate, this is when we should have known Blizzard was fucked. When somebody asked the genuine question, hey, we would like to is there a possibility you might be able to like take the game back to like the classic servers before all of these things happened? Like, could you do that for us? And the guy goes, no. Not only I would not say you think you want that, but you really don't want that. And then a year later, WoW Classic is
WoW Classic because people were making vanilla servers and playing on them.
Yeah, Nostalrius and things like that. But like there was an interest there.
Well, yeah.
But the idea that you cannot read the room enough and you want to be so snide in the position that you're in,
right,
that you want to tell somebody that you think you want something,
yeah,
and you don't really want it. Well, and then the next year he's got to be the one to announce WoW Classic,
right?
Which I think is the ultimate like Schadenfreude kind of moment you can have at one of those cons. But
yeah, I think that about wraps up our what have we been doing segment.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Well,
if you were expecting just Magic talk, we apologize. We went into like 5 different areas. I brought up EVE Online. What the hell?
We talked about Warhammer. We talked about EVE Online. We talked about mostly Magic.
Yes, mostly Magic, though.
Mostly Magic. And I don't know if you could tell, but I was angry most of the time I was talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very evident.
I think the problem is to to go back to what was said during that part of the show, is that there is an ridiculously overabundance of product, and like you said off mic, we didn't even talk about secret layers.
Yeah, we didn't even bring up which, if those are in there too, that's another product that is out there.
That product is dropping constantly.
That's
there's usually like a secret layer at least every other month. If it's not every month, there's a secret layer. And we talked about, like, here's the thing too, like, this is more of a recent thing. One thing that I didn't mention when you brought up the Masters sets that come out every year, that's not how it was. Just like the Commander product, when it came out in 2011, the Commander product came out in 2011. They didn't know there was going to be a demand for it because they didn't even know how many people were playing EDH. So it was a good 2 years before they released another 5 decks for that. And so when the first Master set came out, I can't even remember which one it was, to be honest with you. But whenever the first one of those premium sets came out, there wasn't another one of those for like 2 or 3 years because they don't know if something's going to take off. And so now they just double down on everything. You have a master set of some kind at least once a year. And now with Universes Beyond, the way it's looking, like, I thought Warhammer Lord of the Rings was going to be it for a minute. And it's like every year it looks like we're going to get 1 or 2 Universe Beyond sets in between the standard stuff that comes out, the Commander decks that come out, and the Commander decks come out with every standard set as well as every special set. Another thing that blew my mind is that, like, the Lord of the Rings set came out and there was Commander decks for that too. And there will be for Doctor Who and so forth and so on. There's no way you can keep up, even if it's your only hobby, unless you are in the upper tier of class as far as money making goes. You're not going to be able to, and even if you could buy it all, you wouldn't be able to play with it all. There's too much.
You mentioned doubling down. I think that's kind of a apropos statement, because we were talking with our friends Joe and JT while they were sitting down to a game of Magic, and reprints should mean more of this is out in the open, which should dilute the price of the things.
Right.
And like stuff like doubling season is actually going up in price, even though you should have more access to it because it's more that's being printed out.
And I'll take something Joe said, like, which is what I was thinking also, is that what happens is a specialty set, let's just say a modern master set comes out, it's a limited run on it. Typically you have people that, not just that set, but for pretty much most of the sets, people that collect sealed boxes buy a bunch of those. When a new reprint gets spoiled or whatever, the demand goes up for it because people are, I might be able to get a copy of that card even if I have to buy a box. And then the demand goes up because the availability is, the false availability of the card is there at a lower price point. And then like 3 or 4 months after doubling season got reprinted, it went to the price point that the original copy of it was before it was reprinted, and now it's worth like $10 or $15 more than it was before it was reprinted, because of it getting reprinted.
Supply goes up, demand goes up, like more so. Like that's
right.
crazy. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I guess for me, my final, if I'm starting it, because we don't
want to ramble on too long.
Yeah, because we already did. Boom. Yeah. Anyway, but no,
right.
I think I said this off mic. I don't think this was a part of the recording, but Magic would be something I would go back to. I have a familiarity with it. I played it for years. I'm a lapsed fan. Getting back into this just seems scary, nightmarish. I don't want to go back into it because I've got to keep up with so much stuff. And the way I'm hyper competitive when it comes to this stuff like that, and I would constantly be wanting to just, okay, I got to get this new thing. I got to get this new thing.
There's different kinds of mentality when it comes to the hobby of Magic the Gathering. There is the casual, which is like they spend, like, people will try and argue this, and sure, as a tournament player, you might spend more on singles for a deck than a casual person will spend on singles. However, a casual person that has the money will spend way more money overall on sealed product and even on singles than a tournament player, because the tournament player only needs a select small amount of cards for their deck. And it's the casual people with the money that are buying all of this shit, that and the collectors are buying all of this shit. And the thing is, like, if you wanted to get into the game, you would have to go, okay, do you want to play Legacy or do you want to play Modern? I advise you not to play Standard. You don't like EDH. I already know that. So even though the Singleton format was out for a lot longer than EDH was even a format, but I will say that if you like playing the game, you could play Modern and be okay with it. You wouldn't be able to dabble in the game as a whole, though. That's impossible.
Yeah. Well, the only part that I would really like is the part that I remember building for would be constructed standard.
Yeah.
And no, I can't keep up with it if we have, not counting special things like we didn't mention Secret Layers, if like I've got 10 separate product groupings
standard
that come out in a year.
Standard only has still only has three to four sets come out a year. Everything else we mentioned is like either a special stuff or Secret Layer.
But you mentioned that it is now extended to 3 years.
It'll be 3 years, and that might be another reason why they might have to start making more standard sets, because when we were talking about what was coming out, three or four of the things that Ethan mentioned on the titles, 4 of them were standard sets. Everything else is whatever.
Okay.
So there's still 3 to 4 standard sets that come out a year now. They don't do blocks anymore, except for like a couple of years ago when we went over it when the last Ravnica thing they did a whole block. A block is 3 sets that are tied together with a story, and that's something they used to do a lot of that they don't do anymore for the most part.
There you go. All righty. I think that's pretty much it from this side. What is your opinion, passengers? Let us know at travelers on the omnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L on the omnibus at gmail.com.
Well, I just want to say this since I haven't been saying it, at least not the last episode, but read more books, watch more TV and movies, and be more nerd.
As always, guys, thanks for stopping by and enjoying the ride. Have a good one.